Good evening. Thanks for joining us. This is NTD Business, and I'm Paul Greeny. Small business groups are calling for tough antitrust laws against Amazon. We talked to businesses and experts to get their take. The US trade deficit reaches a record high in February. A large amount of crude oil imports also result in the first petroleum deficit in over a year. And restaurants across the nation are seeing shortages of ketchup. What's the reason? And much more coming up on NTD Business. President Biden says he's willing to negotiate on how to pay for his multi-trillion-dollar infrastructure package. One part of the proposed plan is to raise the federal corporate tax rate from 21% to 28%, but he says he's willing to accept a lower rate as long as the projects are financed.
Mr. President, are you willing to go lower than the 28% corporate tax rate?
I'm willing to listen to that. I'm wide open to, but we got to pay for this.
But Biden does need to persuade Amazon's Jeff Bezos. He said he's fine with hiking it to 28%. We've spoken to tax experts on this show that say big businesses are often more able to avoid taxes than their smaller competitors, so a higher rate can actually benefit them from a competition perspective. Brian Wood has more details on Bezos' comments.
Amazon CEO Jeff Bezos said on Tuesday that he supports U.S. President Joe Biden's proposed tax hikes on American companies. Biden is pushing to increase corporate tax rates from 21% to 28% as part of an infrastructure plan. He also wants to close loopholes that allow companies to move profits overseas. Bezos said in a blog post on Tuesday, quote, "We support the Biden administration's focus on making bold investments in American infrastructure. We recognize this investment will require concessions from all sides." Bezos' statement of support comes after the largest U.S. online retailer faced criticism from the White House, Congress, and social media for paying little or no federal income taxes. Biden last week pointed to Amazon as one of nearly 100 Fortune 500 companies that use loopholes to pay, quote, "not a single solitary penny in federal income tax." He said in 2019 that Amazon shouldn't be paying less in taxes than firefighters and teachers. After paying no federal income tax in 2017 or 2018, Amazon reported over $160 million in tax liability for 2019 and nearly $2 billion for 2020. Bezos is stepping down as company CEO later this year.
The International Monetary Fund wants everybody who prospered during the pandemic to pay a temporary solidarity tax to show solidarity with those who suffered. The top IMF official says COVID-19 has aggravated inequalities and that a vicious cycle of inequality could morph into a social and political seismic crack. Sounds scary. He says the symbolic impact of the proposed tax is very important, even if public finances don't require it. Bureaucrats. He also called on nations to invest in CCP virus vaccines, saying it's the most important immediate fiscal policy they should implement. I'm not sure former President Trump will be on the IMF's most wanted list. The Forbes annual billionaire list says his net worth fell by over $1 billion during his presidency. NTD's Con Fredrickson reports.
Former President Donald Trump's net worth shrank by nearly 1/3 over his 4 years in the White House. That's according to the Forbes annual billionaire list. The Forbes roundup of the world's richest individuals shows Trump with an estimated net worth of $2.4 billion in 2021. That's compared to about $3.5 billion in 2017, Trump's first year in office, or nearly 32% more than now. The data affirms Trump's numerous statements that his presidency wasn't making him richer. Trump is the only billionaire to have served as president of the United States. Over the past year, billionaires have multiplied at a striking rate, with a record 493 people joining the Forbes billionaires list since March of last year. That's a pace of around one new billionaire every 17 hours. Some famous faces that are newcomers to the billionaire list include celebrity Kim Kardashian and Apple CEO Tim Cook. Amazon founder Jeff Bezos tops the list with an estimated net worth of $177 billion, followed by Tesla CEO Elon Musk with $151 billion. Colin Fredrickson, NTD News.
Very little action on Wall Street today. The Dow Jones falling about 16 points, S&P 500 gaining about 6 points, the Nasdaq dropping about 10 points, pretty much unchanged. New Federal Reserve meeting note shows the central bank's policy will stay the same, no change there. 10-year Treasury yield moving a little higher, still remaining below that 14-month high, now at about 1.67%. Oil inched up, gold dipped a little today. The U.S. trade deficit rose to a record high in February. The pandemic remaining a drag on services exports, especially travel. Trade deficit jumped 4.8% to a record $71 billion. Exports fell 2.6%, apparently hurt by cold weather across large parts of the country. Imports also slipping, but by a much smaller percentage, likely from supply chain restraints maybe. The U.S. also had the first petroleum trade deficit in over a year, thanks to $1 billion worth of crude oil imports. A new group of small businesses, a big group of small businesses, is joining forces to fight what they call large monopolies conspiring to hurt them. Small Business Rising wants to seek action on a congressional report that says Amazon uses independent sellers, just like you or me, to discover what products sell well and just make their own version of it. And I don't think I'd want Amazon as my competitor. Robin Gaster is an advocate for small businesses, but he also wrote a book highlighting Amazon's successes called Behemoth, Amazon Rising. I asked him if small businesses do need help in the fight.
They need three things. They need for all of us to start to understand what a new set of rules of the road would look like, what is acceptable and what is not. They need a new digital regulatory authority like the FCC, but focused only on digital, because otherwise we won't have the expertise or the resources to manage these huge companies. And they need transparency. They need us to demand more information so that these regulators can tell when the rules are being broken. We need all three of those things, and they need them most of all.
But from a legal standpoint, could this type of regulation ever happen?
Sure, because we already have a model, which is the utility industry. Utilities are regulated monopolies, and as part of that regulation, they have to give up all their business information that influences prices, which is essentially everything. All their labor information, all their inputs, all their outputs, all their processes, everything bears on prices, and they give it all up as needed. So we already have a model on how to do this. We just need to think about how to apply it in a digital world where the regulators are vastly outgunned.
But not everyone agrees. American antitrust laws are built to protect the consumer, not competitors. Jessica Malugan is director of the Center for Technology Innovation at the Competitive Enterprise Institute. She says even the congressional report doesn't say consumers have been harmed by Amazon's business practices.
Well, I think there's a couple things to keep in mind. One is that anytime something happens online, we reflexively worry that this is a whole new problem and, oh my gosh, we need to rush in and get involved. And I would just point out that in this case, companies have been selling generics on their store shelves, the grocery store, at big box stores for decades. What this does for the consumers often is gives them more choices, often at a lower price point. And I don't think that anything is different just because we're talking about an online platform within their online marketplace. This is the same thing that you'd encounter if you went to your local grocery store and bought a generic product there. Those companies definitely keep track of what you're buying. They watch that just like Amazon is being charged with doing. To the extent that they're doing that, I don't know. I'm not inside the company, but large platforms selling their own generic version of things is nothing new, and it often benefits consumers.
Mm-hmm. And do you feel that the producers, this is just the nature of a free market, that Amazon and is providing a platform and these smaller retailers, they're taking advantage of it, and this is part of just the free market playing out?
Yeah, I would rather see all of these sellers compete in the marketplace where consumers pick the losers and the winners. It worries me when that fight is taken to Washington, where you have bureaucracy and politicians picking the winners and losers. I don't think taxpayers win in that situation. I don't think consumers win in that situation. So I'd much rather see the free market work out these competition issues.
There's no doubt that as Amazon has grown, brick and mortar stores, mom and pop shops have closed their doors. But correlation doesn't prove causation, and if it wasn't Amazon, it could have been someone else. And can a business like Amazon really be blamed if it's just catering to changing consumer habits? And anyway, as Amazon grows, its sellers grow too and make a lot of money at the same time. Ian Sells, the founder of $1 Million Seller, says he's created multiple seven-figure businesses buying generic products, branding them, and selling them on Amazon. But I asked him, does he worry that Amazon will just copy his good ideas?
It's always a worry. You know, you're selling products on somebody else's marketplace so that they can take some of that information and do what you're trying to do. But they're not putting the attention and care that these third-party sellers are doing for these specific products. They put, anybody and everybody on these products. Like if they were to copy my brand, they would use some low-level people at Amazon to basically handle customer support, and they just don't treat customers the way that a brand owner would, or somebody who cares about the end user and the repeat purchases. So they really have a different mentality, and they can't rise to the level of care that individual sellers put on their specific brands.
So you feel the benefits of having Amazon there, the platform, far outweigh the risks?
Yes, they do. They do far outweigh the risk. The bigger risk is actually with the platform itself, in that if you run into issues with your account getting shut down, or reviews falling off, or an attack from a competitor, whether it be Amazon or an internal person at Amazon, or a foreign seller, right? You can lose your entire sales and have to fight for it back. And there's no real way to work with Amazon in a closed capacity. It's always through the multiple channels of support that they have there.
Are there other areas of your relationship with Amazon that you would like to see improve as a small business owner?
Yeah, I think that they really lack in the communication with the sellers, and the ability of certain sellers that have proven themselves on the platform to be able to, communicate at a higher level. Because I happen to know a lot more about selling on Amazon and the issues within Amazon than actually the people I talk to on the other end of the phone or email, right? And so if I could just get in touch with the right people, we're able to pass off a lot of information that will help Amazon actually improve the platform. My goal is to improve it. There's a lot of buyers on Amazon, so why would I not want my products there?
And how about the people you work with in your mastermind program? How has selling on Amazon benefited them, their business?
Well, the mastermind really has benefited everybody, because there is no roadmap to Amazon. It's a new territory. It's a new project, right? And everybody's trying to figure out, how do I sell more products? How do I import, deal with duties? How do I deal with ranking or better listings or customer service optimization? So mastermind really serves as a point in contact for the sellers to actually be a community and work together in order to achieve this, because Amazon doesn't provide any of this information. At the same time, it puts a lot of people together that are very successful and allows us to have a little bit better of pull and authority within Amazon. And when we have issues, everybody has their own different communication channels to get to a higher level up than maybe you would get through the normal channels of customer support online.
Looking at all these different antitrust campaigns and different initiatives we see, do you see any changes coming down the line for Amazon and sellers like yourself?
Yeah, I really hope so. They definitely have a great platform, but there's a lot of issues that they're slow to take action on and to address, which are impacting small and medium-sized sellers. The rules are different for U.S. sellers versus foreign sellers. We have higher costs, we have taxes to pay, and other sellers are able to get around these things. And I think Amazon just really needs to do a better job of working on the seller side, because they've spent a lot of time on the buyer side building the trust and the reviews and things like that to be a little bit more legit. But on the seller side, they really haven't done enough to say, hey, here are trusted sellers. They've sold for a year and they've never had any violations, versus a seller comes out the gate and has 10,000 reviews from day one, and they have a number one selling product and they've never sold anything on Amazon before. We know that's not legitimate, so we need to have Amazon really pay attention to the sellers that are doing right and watch more of them, because they spend a lot of time on finding the bad actors and not enough time on the good actors, in my opinion.
Bad news if you're a ketchup fan. There's a shortage. Apparently, because restaurants relied heavily on takeout orders during the pandemic, they've run out of packets of ketchup. Once those started running out, some eateries began pouring out bulk ketchup into individual cups. The Wall Street Journal reports that the low inventory of ketchup is hitting mom and pop restaurants as well as bigger chains. Restaurant business platform Plate IQ says ketchup shortage caused packet prices to rise 13% since January 2020. Inflation alert. But there's some good news. USA Today reports that America's most popular brand, Heinz, is working to increase its supplies to produce 12 billion packets a year. There's a whole world behind your lunch, you know. Vaccine passports, hotly debated topic, but which businesses would actually use them if they could? NTD's Miguel Moreno explores this question in Manhattan.
New York State's rolled out their Excelsior Pass, one of those curious vaccine passports. You have to get vaccinated against COVID-19 or test negative to attend games at major stadiums or arenas.
Okay, so here's the app. This is the Excelsior Pass wallet app, and this is where your information would be. So it's an interesting concept. It's very futuristic, but I'm wondering how many small business owners, if they could, would turn away potential customers because they haven't been vaccinated for COVID-19 or haven't tested negative.
The general manager of this restaurant told us he'd use the passport and vet his customers.
I think, yes, I love to use a passport personally because, it's better for employees, better for all the customers inside the restaurant especially, so that they're secured.
But he says he's got to think about money too, and this could come at a cost. The NYC Hospitality Alliance told us restaurants are barely making it out of the pandemic, so they can't afford to turn down the unvaccinated population. Plus, they say there are logistical and legal issues to consider. The owner of K Rico South American Steakhouse says he would use passports to vet his customers, but wouldn't turn customers away, like people who turn down the vaccine for spiritual or religious reasons.
I would implement the contact tracing, let's say like the analog way of doing things, of, writing it down and taking temperatures, and obviously don't want to offend anybody for their beliefs or anything. I mean, everybody has a right to.
So far, COVID-19 vaccines are limited to certain age and work categories. The Biden administration says they'll be available to all adults by the 19th of April. Miguel Moreno, NTD News.
Small business owners in Italy want the government to let them reopen after a year of being closed. Hundreds of people gathered in front of the Italian parliament yesterday protesting the restrictions. NTD's Arlene Richards reports.
Tensions were high in Rome on Tuesday. Hundreds of restaurant and small business owners protested outside the parliament. They want lawmakers to lift restrictions and let them reopen.
They have taken the right to work away. They have taken away our dignity.
Last week, the cabinet ruled that bars and restaurants could only offer a takeout service in April. It angered many businesses that hope to reopen fully as the vaccination campaign picks up speed. One man says he'll keep his restaurant open despite receiving multiple fines.
They told me to close, but I continued to stay open regardless. So from tomorrow, you have to follow my example. You have to open because nobody can tell you to close.
Another restaurant owner in Rome tried to defy rules Wednesday by opening his doors to the public.
After 13 months, we have kept up payment for expenses and the rent. But we are now at the point where either we open or we die. So we cannot wait for the government.
The police showed up before anyone could take a seat. The president of the Hospitality Association came to show his support for the restaurant owner.
You understand that now we have been closed for months. We are receiving emails about eviction orders. We no longer have money to pay the electricity bills and therefore risk power disconnection.
Business owners who lost part of their earnings as a result of the closures are receiving some compensation from the government, though many say it is not enough.
You're trying to sell your products in China, trying to keep your head down so you don't upset the communists. Just make sure you don't mention their forced labor camps in Xinjiang, because some American businesses did, and now China is blurring out their logos on TV. And yes, it looks really stupid. NTD's Patrick Hayden reports.
Chinese media is blurring out Western brand logos on TV in retaliation for Xinjiang cotton comments. The BBC reports it's delayed some broadcasts because post-production editors have so much to censor, from shoes to T-shirts. It seems to be Beijing's latest retaliation against Western brands for expressing concerns about forced labor, in particular in the cotton industry of China's Xinjiang region. Targeted brands are among members of the Better Cotton Initiative, a non-profit group promoting sustainable cotton production. This includes Nike, Adidas and Puma. Beijing denies the claim of forced labor and has even launched a campaign to promote Xinjiang cotton within China. This has seen shares of Chinese clothing brands jump in recent weeks. Patrick Hayden, NTD News.
Still to come this evening. The power of persuasion. A first grader gives fashion advice to Old Navy. The clothing retailer does something pretty unexpected. And a unique type of cheese gets protected status in the European Union. Could be a big sales booster. That and much more after the break.
Hey everyone, today's an exciting day. I'm joined by my old friend, Mr. Ellis Williams, aka Mr. Biggs, one of the founding fathers of hip hop from the mighty Soul Sonic Force, who by the way happened to be a CarShield customer and I had no idea.
When I saw you representing CarShield, I knew CarShield was the real deal. You've always been official.
You called me and you told me, you said, man, I got CarShield and it worked. What made you get it?
You know, I was actually watching a football game at the time. CarShield commercial came on. I was like, you know what? I have this old SUV, and I know the manufacturer warranty is about to run out. I didn't want to get stuck with expensive car repairs.
Right.
So I gave CarShield a call. Coverage was very affordable, and there was no long-term contract. A few months after that, transmission went on my car. I took it to my mechanic. Mechanic knew of CarShield. They called CarShield and saved my family and I $2,400.
CarShield is America's #1 auto protection company. Their administrators have paid out over $1 billion in claims and cover most vehicles from 5,000 to 150,000 miles.
When I bought my used car, I didn't expect any problems right away. But when it broke down, I'm glad I had CarShield.
CarShield saved me over $4,000 and followed through with their commitment. Thank you, CarShield.
I've been a CarShield customer for close to 7 years, had 3 vehicles covered, and they saved me close to $9,000.
With coverage through CarShield's administrators, you'll receive 24/7 roadside assistance, courtesy towing, rental reimbursement at no additional charge. Plus, with CarShield's nationwide coverage network, you can choose the mechanic or dealership of your choice no matter where you are.
If you're driving without a warranty, you have to call CarShield.
Yeah, you do. Give CarShield a call today before it's too late. Remember,
CarShield cars go farther.
Protect yourself now against expensive auto repair bills. Call CarShield for a free and instant protection plan quote. Once your car breaks down, it's too late. Call 800-545-5325. That's 800-545-5325.
After LG exited the smartphone market this week, Samsung is betting on its mid-range phones by adding some new technology. It's launching 3 new 5G devices in the US this week. At $279, the Galaxy A32 5G is one of the most affordable 5G phones in the country. The new phone features a HD display, 64 gigs of internal storage, and a battery that promises to last all day. Samsung also introduced 2 more expensive Galaxy A series that will have 5G technology. You ever take fashion advice from a 7-year-old? Well, retail giant Old Navy is. As part of a class assignment on how to write persuasive letters, Cameron Gardner wrote one to Old Navy about girls' jeans. The little girl from Bentonville, Arkansas was annoyed that the front pockets on the kids' jeans were fake. She wrote to the retailer saying she'd like to have real pockets in Old Navy's kid jeans because she'd like to put her hands in the pockets. It's fair. Old Navy liked the idea, wrote her a thank you note, and then the big box store did even more than that. They sent her 4 pairs of jeans and jean shorts with real pockets. Now, Cameron and her classmates learned an important lesson about the true power of persuasion. California's Carlsbad flower fields are in full bloom. Beautiful, bright colors attracting visitors like bees. NTD's Eileen Eng has the story.
Because of pandemic restrictions, Carlsbad flower fields wasn't open to the public last year. As restrictions ease, this year the fields are seeing a swarm of people.
The thing that I love most and I missed the most about last year was really seeing the experience and realizing the experience that the color brings to the guest. There's so much joy and happiness that occur when people immerse themselves and when they immerse themselves in this kind of color.
Located north of San Diego, the flower fields showcase more than 70 million flowers and span 50 acres. It attracts people from near and far.
Everyone feels so connected and everyone's just so happy, like everyone's just enjoying the flowers and it just feels like normal.
It does feel like things are easing a little bit. It's just great to see the beauty and just get out and enjoy a day with my wife.
I've never seen anything like this before. I'm from Georgia and we have, fields of all kinds of things, but I've never really been this close to like a field of flowers. So it's really cool to be out here and see all of this. And like everything's so neat and organized and pretty. Yeah, love it.
It's nice to be out again and out in the public, seeing flowers, and it's just fun to be out again.
I feel like we haven't really done very much at all this past year, so this is one of our first things that we've been going out to do.
Yeah. The farm breeds its own variety of ranunculus that will end up in flower shops and supermarkets.
We're hybridizing ranunculus and every year trying to improve the quality, the size of the flower, the brightness of the color, the uniformity of the crop. And so every year we believe it's getting better and better and better.
Carlsbad flower fields are open to the public until May 9th. Eileen Eng, NTD News, California.
Tossed in the frying pan, on a barbecue, eaten raw with melon in the summer. Halloumi cheese is both delicious and versatile, and now it's receiving protected designation of origin status from the European Union. NTD's Trevor Piper reports.
Later this month, the European Union is set to formally give halloumi cheese the protected designation of origin status. That's according to the Ministry of Agriculture in Cyprus. The move will give halloumi producers in Cyprus the sole right to sell the rubbery cheese in the EU.
Unfortunately, in recent years, many countries tried to copy us. So the registration, this result that we have today, will help very much.
When Petro started selling halloumi about 40 years ago, his company used only 250 litres of milk a day. Now it compresses 250 tonnes of milk per day, employing over 200 people and exporting to 40 countries. He expects more demands for halloumi after the protected status takes effect in October.
Both we cheesemakers and the state will be called upon to find solutions, how to produce more halloumi than we have been producing today in order to cover the needs in the market.
Historical accounts suggest the production of halloumi started in Cyprus as early as around 1500. At a popular restaurant in Nicosia, Cyprus's capital, halloumi is served in its simplest form.
A lot of tourists come here looking for it. They don't know it and ask for it to find out what it is. They only know it by name, and as a product they ask to eat it, to try halloumi, and from what I see they really like it.
Dairy products are the country's second most valuable export after pharmaceuticals and has grown 20% annually for the past 5 years.
That's the latest business updates for today. You can still catch NTD Evening News with Stephanie Cox. That starts at 6:30 p.m. Eastern. For NTD Business, that's all for today. Thank you for watching. We'll see you tomorrow.
We have a new channel. Subscribe to us on YouTube at NTD News. Get the highlights of our news broadcast and the most important headlines that we curate especially for you.
Don't miss out on important news. Our videos are being deleted. So if you don't want to be cut off from honest news, take a moment to sign up for our newsletter at newsletter.ntd.com so you don't lose access to NTD. Go to newsletter.ntd.com to sign up for our evening newsletter.